All right, we'll wrap things up tonight with the uh, Utah Jazz defeating the Boston Celtics 122 to 108. The Jazz remain red hot. They've won 9 out of their last 10. And Donovan Mitchell, big game for him, scores 36 points. The Celtics led last night by 33 from Jaylen Brown. Not nearly enough, though. So, what do you make of this one, Drink?
Well, I got a question for you before we get off in this. Do you think Donovan Mitchell has done enough this year to be an All-Star starter for the All-Star game if they play it?
I would, yeah, I would say that's a very reasonable possibility.
I just had I was pondering on that. And I just was curious on how you felt
Do
about
do
that.
you?
I do like I've been sitting here thinking like, man, he's been playing off the chain this year, and then I think
Got
about
the
the usual suspects, and I'm like, he might be better than some of the usual suspects that we usually have.
Yeah,
I
and to
mean,
that yeah, and to that point, I mean, I think for years now, James Harden has clogged up one of those spots. He's now out of there, and then you combine that with the fact that Utah has the best record in the West right now. That could be a very real possibility.
right. But to the game itself, now this game I thought it was the clash of two better teams. I mean, if you look at the records, you like, hey, yeah, drink two better teams, right? Yeah. Um, but let's be clear here. When the Celtics are clicking, they're one of the top teams in the East. Let's not forget that. The difference is they're going through a lot. They're going through this transformation. Everybody trying to figure this out, and they play the Utah Jazz, which happens to be the best team in the NBA right now. That's what it looks like. We don't know if it's fool's gold or the real deal, but they're playing like the best team in the NBA. You ask me, what does that mean? This is what it means. Starting lineup for Utah. Get you some of this. All right? Russ O'Neal. I'm going to go with the least to the greatest. Russ O'Neal, 9 points. All right? Hear me out here. 9 points, 1 assist, 4 rebounds. But he did go 3 from 4 from the 3-point line, which is, I guess, good for him. Then you got Bogdanovich. This guy's the shooter of the Jazz, right? He scored 16 points. He had 4 assists, 8 rebounds. I ain't mad at it. Hey, but Bogdanovich, listen, if you're gonna be the shooter, I need you to shoot a little better from the 3-point line. 2 for 7 ain't gonna get the job done. And then going Rudy Gobert, the Stifler Tower himself, 18 points. I'll take that. 18 points, 3 assists, 12 rebounds. So there go your double-double. So he did his job. He did go 8 for 9 from the field. So that meaning when you give him the ball, he's going to try to put it in the hoop. Now, I ain't saying his inventory is very wide, but if it works, it works. If you know, you know. And then going over to Joe Ingles. Joe Ingles dropped 24, which I was a little surprised to see. 24, 6 assists, and 3 rebounds. And then coming in, you know the guy, you know the closer for the Jazz right here. Donovan Mitchell, 36 points, 9 assists, and 4 rebounds. From a starting standpoint, this is what you want from your starters. To have you only had one guy that didn't go in double figures, but that one guy did shoot the ball well. Maybe he didn't shoot the ball as much. Brought him in for defense, something like that. I like that because we know what Jordan Clarkson bring. Derek Favors, Mr. Utah Jazz himself, he been there like forever. He done went to another team and came back and got him some more of that. But with that said, this team seems to be balanced, man. Like they play defense. They seem to be getting rolling the offense. I just want to know when we move after the All-Star break and we start getting into those months where teams start ratcheting it up more, will the Jazz still look like what we see them as now? And I'm not 100% sure. I'm waiting on that. But to this point, they looking good, man. They looking good. This team look like they're probably gonna get 2 All-Stars. I wouldn't be surprised if Rudy Gobert get voted in. Once again, usual suspects, right? So him and Donovan Mitchell, they look like they're gonna be around. And then, listen, best team in the West going against probably the third or fourth best team in the East right now, Boston. But listen, folks, you got to remember, we're in February. Like, they still learning. We'll see what they look like after the All-Star break. For me, after the All-Star break is usually when the good stuff happens. Usually, whatever the team look like after that is what you're going to get in the playoffs, usually, unless it's injuries. But listen, Jaylen Brown, he dropped 33 last night. Let's make no mistake. Them young guns that the Celtics got over there, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. This is a reason why when you negotiate with the Celtics, you ain't getting one of these two guys. Hey, we'll give you Hayward, we'll give you the Water Boy, we'll give you 10% of the GM paycheck, but you ain't getting these two guys. Like, listen, Jaylen Brown went. He scored 33 points. He had 0 assists, but he had 8 rebounds. He did put up 20 shots. Oh, who else put up 20 shots? His counterpart, Jason Tatum. He had 23 points, 4 assists, and 4 rebounds. Now, you know, Tice had 15 points, but if you take, this is the difference. If you took Brown and Tatum away from that starting lineup, they didn't really do a whole lot. It wasn't like Utah where they had multiple guys and the scoring was even. You take that away, they lucky they didn't get that Houston Rockets special. Because as I look at this, look, they might have called the dogs off at some point because this not looking good. You got two guys that showed up and then all right, Kimball, Cardiac Kimball. 4-time All-Star, maybe more than that. 2 for 12. Kimber, you played 30 minutes. You scored 7 points. You did get 7 assists and you got 4 rebounds. You went 1 for 4 from the 3-point line, 2 for 12 overall. That ain't gonna cut it. That is not gonna. Celtics, that ain't gonna cut it. I don't know what they need to do. That's not gonna cut it. You're lucky you didn't get blown out. They really need more from Kemba Walker. This ain't it. If for this you could have kept Kyrie Irving. I'm just gonna call it what it is. Could have kept Kyrie Irving. If this is what I'm so sick. Kemba Walker hasn't showed me half of what he was doing in Charlotte since he's been with the Boston. He ain't showed me 50% of what he was doing in Charlotte. If I'm lying, I'm flying. Tell me I'm wrong. Whatever. But Kemba Walker, that ain't it. You need more from your supposedly third All-Star, and that's what you get. So, all in all, Boston got to step it up. Utah, we'll see if they real. But to answer your question, I like what I see out of Utah. I think if Utah keep on this pace, we're going to have a very, very fun Western Conference because now they're placing themselves up there with the Los Angeles Lakers, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the likes of those teams. So, I like it, man. I'm glad to see a fresh face trying to get to the cream, get to the top. So, with that said, I like what I see out of Utah. Kemba Walker, you got to get your crap together. Get it together.
I said Utah had won 9 for 10. I had to go back and look at that. I think they've been on a bigger roll than that. They won 16 out of 17 now. I think the last time I talked about it, I was like, how can they sustain this? And this is still a torrid streak they're on, and you got to believe at some point they'll cool off. But they look real to me. And it looks like the Western Conference. It was last year. It looked like a 2-team race.
Right.
Ended up, and then even though the Clippers ended up being the monumental disappointments that they were, but it looks like there's a legitimate 3-team race for the top seed in the West. And Utah, Quinn Snyder, really the identity that they had early on was they were gonna lock you down. They were gonna play good defense. You remember they had, I think it was back-to-back seasons where they played Houston in the playoffs, and we knew they could defend, but they just never could compete because they just couldn't score enough. Now you have a situation where they can score enough, and they've done some things to where you get a guy like Bojan Bogdanovic. You bring in Jordan Clarkson, and although I don't think they were particularly great from 3-point range last night, they are threats from out there. I think the Clarkson move is one of the more underrated moves that we've seen lately in the trade market. He gave them a huge boost last season. Bogdanovic, when he was injured last season and wasn't available to play in the bubble, I thought that was a big deal. But I mean, you're right about Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. They out there playing like professionals, getting it done. And yeah, Donovan Mitchell it was a great question you let off with because that's going to be a real possibility. Him being an All-Star game starter if this continues. because these are just simply numbers, and the team's success. It's too much to ignore, and that's how these things typically work. When you're the best team, best player, there's going to be a lot of recognition that goes along with it. But it's a, it's a it's something to behold, to where we've seen where this team, who this team was and how they played when Quinn Snyder first arrived, and they developed into something more. So that's been a wonderful transformation to watch. Mike Conley wasn't even available for this game. That's only gonna strengthen their depth. That'll likely put Joe Ingles back on the bench. And the Royce O'Neal point, Royce O'Neal, I don't think he's out there much to score. He's one of those classic glue guys who's going to do a little bit of everything. He's going to do dirty work. He's going to play defense. And he's a valuable commodity. They're lucky to have him. But this is aesthetically a fun team to watch. It wasn't so much that way when they really were only known for defense and they just struggled to score, and they didn't have much firepower from the 3-point line. The moves they've made recently, the past year or so, have made them a bit more modern, and now got teams that just want to run and gun from the 3-point line. They can play with these teams. And they make 18 threes last night, and they throw up 48. About 5 years ago, you throw a stat line like that up there, and you would just say, oh, Houston's out there flopping around doing that. No, this is a lot of teams will go out there and just jack up threes the whole game, but they do it efficiently. And Boston, it's on one hand, it's Boston's in fourth place right now in the Eastern Conference, and they're one game over 500. This team has not hit its stride, and this team right now they're huge underachievers. They're two young guns who B to B plus players last year. They're A minus performers right now, and you would think when those guys have taken that type of step forward, that would have them looking at big success. Well, the problem is one of your B level players is gone, Gordon Hayward, and your other B level player, who was really, we would look at him as their most reliable. Well, I don't know what he's doing right now, but he's not doing all that well. Kemba Walker, you're so right about this. He's a mystery, and he is playing at a subpar level to where, can we get Brad Wanamaker back in here? Because this is horrible.
Ojale.
Shimmy Ojale. I'm serious about Wanamaker though, because Jeff Teague isn't good either. I don't think fans are too fond of him right now in Boston.
Right.
But it goes beyond last night. He just hasn't been able to find a rhythm. I think he did have a 24-point outbreak against the Clippers, earlier last week or on the weekend or something. But he's shooting for the season 34%. He's shooting from 31%. That type of shooting is it's abysmal. And this team, they're relying on him to hit shots. And I think Kemba Walker is still one of those guys. He's a last second type of guy. He's got that clutch gene. It goes back to his days at UConn. I believe that's still in him. And at this age, ain't no time to be just slowing down and looking like you ready to be, put out to pasture. This is not the time for that. Boston, they got aspirations up there. Brad Stevens ain't up there to just be a 500 team and be looking alongside at Atlanta and these other teams that have no business being in the same breath as the Boston Celtics. This can't go on, and there's got to be some hard conversations going on right now. I think Marcus Smart not being available right now is a big deal, and I think whenever he comes back, that'll have a big impact. But Marcus Smart or no Marcus Smart, this is a no-show Kemba Walker right now. And as good and as great as Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are, they're gonna need Kemba Walker. This is gonna be a situation where those two dudes do it by themselves. And the bench, I don't believe the bench did all that much for him last night either. Grant Williams, he was okay, but I don't know. I'd be interested in seeing Carson Edwards get a little bit more run. At the one of your backup guards. I think he's a guy that can inject some life into the offense. You remember the guy from Purdue who, when Virginia won the title, he had I believe it was a 30-some point performance. So he can light it up from outside. But they got some work to do, and it's if you came into the season and you were thinking about which team would be 20-5 and which team would be 12-11, I would be more inclined to tell you Boston would be the 20-5 team.
Right.
It's definitely not what we've seen so far.